Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida, and today's date is Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. Yes, and hey, keep your thoughts and prayers to the beautiful people in Texas and everyone else is involved with this winter storm surge. It is essential. And of course, as many people are like saying, oh yeah, like they get what they deserve. And you know, that's balled out unacceptable. I don't care whether you like individuals from that area or not. It is condemning in my book. That including the late Rush Limbaugh, who passed away, was announced today, earlier this afternoon, at the age of 70, due to lung cancer. And I know he had that. He was battling it for a good period of time. And I remember the whole opioids thing. He had those issues with that as well. And when people ask me about him, I go, he has his pros and cons. Okay, I'll be very fair. The more as I learn about liberty and economy and NAFTA and so forth, which he supported, I reconsidered a lot of those areas. But it doesn't mean he's always wrong. People say he's hateful, this and that. I go, no. I understand and may be critical about some folks. It may mock them. That's how far he goes. He doesn't wish anyone ill. I'll be very fair. Because he got the Medal of Freedom from Donald Trump. So, like I said, I haven't really listened to live shows. I don't really listen to live shows. I remember him on TV many, many years ago. But I always learned to observe responsibly. He made some waves. He got people inspired to look for freedom and conservatism. But others went a little bit further. So, those areas, I'll say, yeah, always pay homage to him. And of course, many people want to take him off the air. They say he used hate speech, this cancel culture propaganda, even way back when. I am not impressed. The whole thing is, don't listen. I haven't. I don't belly up on it or complain what he has to say. I laugh at a lot of people. I disagree, which is fine. Some people want to end my friendship because we have differences of views. That's not my problem. That's theirs. Of course, some celebrities are laughing about it. You know what? And people, it'll be better without Rush Limbaugh. Let me tell you something. A lot of the clowns you support are seditious, treasonous parasites. And I know, too, that Mr. Limbaugh, there was a claim he was a third-degree Freemason. It's a claim. That's how far I go. But I never wish anyone ill or beat anyone when they're down. Because you'd be cursing yourself. I made a comment to one of my Facebook pen pals on that. He liked it. Always think before you speak, my friends, because it can bite you in the rear end when it least expect it. And I just examined H.R. 40, which is you want to have a commission's meeting on reparations for African Americans. You want to try to do 90 days of Judiciary Committee and 120 days to get everything right, reconsidered and all that, or get it approved and so forth. That had that meeting. They want $12 million for the project, for the mission. Let me tell you something. When I read that particular bill, it was systemic racism that shall only benefit the technocratic plantation. No one else. You're using a particular group that you're going to screw later on. I am not impressed by this by any means. And just to let everyone know, too, this is for exclusivity for a particular group. And they even had white individuals and Irish that were considered indentured servants or slaves. And they were paid, and people bought them a lot cheaper. Do I support it? Absolutely not. When it comes to slavery or tyranny by any means. Even Anthony Johnson from Nigeria, I think from Nigeria, came to America. He owned slaves, black and white. So you're going to take money from him or his heirs? So trying to hold the whole 1619 project? Please. I always tell people, learn to study history, what they tell you in school. Or they tell you in the idiot box. I remember I did an article, read a column from the late, great Dr. Walter Williams on reparations. He was spot on. It will be one big circus. It's not being a racist towards a particular group either. It's downright principles. And of course, I was watching a video on Breitbart. There were many of them talking about the whole 40 acres and the mule. Come on. Please. These guys haven't done their homework. But I know, what was this one congressman? I believe his name is, he's from Utah. It was Robbins, I think it's Robbins. I could be mistaken. But he was very good. Talking about what happened in the 60s and so forth in Tallahassee, Jim Crow law started around Massachusetts. I did a show on that in reference to one of the, I think it was, oh man. Milton Cooper? No, not Milton Cooper. But, it was very good. It was under unsungheroesproject.com. And he talked about fighting the railroad, desegregating the railroads in Massachusetts. It's been around, this whole segregation stuff has been around, in the United States after the Reconstruction Act. So it's just very amazing when they try to throw this rhetoric at you folks. The whole thing is, they want to use a particular group. And it's downright deplorable, unacceptable. It's a game of technocracy. They want us divided up on an ethno basis, peasants versus peasants, and they can rule over us. They want us to be as their little global pawns. The hell with them. And I'll let Congressman Ted Deutsch know how I felt about it. Meritocracy. They're trying to show that meritocracy is inadequate. They are absolutely 100% incorrect. And I got it in my bag too. So if people want to read it, here you go. So I let my congressman know about that. Ted Deutsch, technocratic Ted to be exact. So I'm just disturbed, but I see this as a distraction as well, folks. There's a lot of insanity going on. I was looking at one video of one rapper from Spain serving time for criticizing the king. It violates their free speech under Section 20 of their own constitution. So such thing is called exceptionalism. Government knows best. Oh yeah, and of course Joe Biden's rhetoric about China, communist China. Their customs are different than ours. But it's okay to have being bought and paid for by the CCP or being a New World Order agent, white privilege President Joe Biden. I can't say president, excuse me. White privilege 46. He's not my president. because he has no merit. I can throw that at you too. So, what else? And of course, gun control. I gotta look more into that. See what these bills are about, but I'm not impressed by any means. But it's okay to throw Jim Crow style legislation against all of us, right? Jim Crow on steroids, yeah. That's exceptional, because we're the government. We can do whatever we want. Give them the middle finger, please. So, all right. Well, I want to be talking about a few things here, which is stuff that's caught my eye. And first article, believe it or not, little historical lessons and all that, and maybe commentaries here. This one here came from the Washington Examiner, and it says Governor DeSantis from Florida, finds success, but little of the plaudits once enjoyed by Cuomo. And Joseph Simonson wrote this today. And as it reads, Governor DeSantis likely won't win many awards from Hollywood or otherwise for handling his COVID-19, despite the fact that his state has arguably weathered the pandemic far better than nearly any other in the country. Despite the best efforts from Democratic politicians, activists like one who donned a Grim Reaper outfit and patrolled the state's beaches, and many in the media, Florida has emerged in an indisputable leader in balancing public safety with economic security during an unprecedented health crisis. The facts speak for themselves. Florida's coronavirus death rate sits at 136. See? 136 per 100,000 people, the 27th lowest in the country and substantially lower than states such as New York, New Jersey, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And I've looked those up, and I'm like, damn. All right? That rate has recently spiked due to a surge of cases in January and February. From August until the end of December, Florida was witnessing a 7-day death rate as low as 12 per 100,000 in some instances. Like other states, however, Florida was uniquely challenged by COVID-19 due to over a fifth of its population being over the age of 65. No other state, save Maine, which has 0.1% greater senior population, houses such as a large elderly population. Elderly COVID-19 related deaths per 100,000 are also higher in California and New York than in Florida. Under Andrew Cuomo's leadership, 1,066 per 100,000 seniors have died from COVID-19 related illnesses, compared at the national average of 666. Okay, nice number there, right? Florida's senior death rate is nearly 100 lower than California's at 474, and 38 other states rank higher for senior COVID-19 mortality. Florida's per capita mortality increase from 14.8% from 2019 to 2020 remains well below the national average of 16.9% as well. Both California and New York remain above the national average as of February 10th, with New York's at 30.1%. In total, 34% had a higher rate of all-cause mortality from 2019 to 2020. Officials in Florida attribute these to lockdown deaths and point to their state policies of keeping schools and businesses open. And as 99.8% of all students have access to in-person learning, Florida has seen fewer pediatric COVID-19 cases than states such as Illinois and California, where students can only access virtual instructors. Keeping schools open has remained a point of the personal pride for Republican DeSantis, and he has committed to keeping all public education facilities open as more studies are published demonstrating the damage to mental health millions of school children are suffering from due to virtual learning. What the CDC put out 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, I wonder why they would do it then, was quite frankly a disgrace. It will require, if you actually follow that, closing 90% of the schools in the United States, DeSantis said Tuesday in reaction to new federal guidelines on school openings. We are open, we remain open, and we are not turning back. Along with the schools, the state's economic remains healthier than the rest of the country, with an unemployment rate of 6.1% as of the end of December, compared to the 6.7% nationwide. Florida has seen significantly fewer residents thrown out of work compared to the 4 other largest states in the country. California, in contrast, suffered one of the worst blows to its unemployment rate in the country, with 9% of its working-age population still out of the labor force. Even GOP-led Texas has a higher unemployment rate at 7.2%. New York sits at 8.2%. Florida's relatively strong unemployment rate has transferred to real economic growth. Despite the hit the state took with various resorts temporarily closing down due to the lack of tourism. Average price of homes has steadily risen since January 2020. And December of last year, the average price of a home sold in Florida sat at over $300,000 compared to $250,000 in 2019. Much of that rise in home prices can be attributed to a great migration of sorts taking place from the north, with Florida placing third in the country for a number of one-way U-Haul rentals to the state. California placed in dead last, with New York ranked the 42nd lowest. DeSantis' results have caught the eye of several vocal members of the GOP, including Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, who in a recent interview blasted Cuomo for not following his state's lead. It is a tale of two governors, Gaetz said in an interview on Monday, extolling DeSantis' policies of mandating in-person school instruction and keeping COVID-19 positive nursing home residents in separate facilities. Whereas in New York, they destroyed small businesses, they destroyed education, and then the folks they were supposed to be taking care of the most, they put in the most peril. The Florida governor's office points to a number of crucial steps state leadership took at the beginning of the pandemic to explain their success. In order to avert the kind of catastrophe seen in New York and New Jersey, DeSantis created 23 COVID-19 specific nursing homes throughout the state early on in the pandemic. These facilities house senior citizens and needing long-term care who tested positive for helping contain the virus to specific hot zones. The mainstream media was so desperate to vilify the Trump administration and Governor DeSantis that they emboldened lockdown states like California and New York. A statement from the governor's office reads, "Turns out Governor DeSantis was ahead of the curve with his actions early on during the pandemic to protect the state's most vulnerable, and his actions saved lives." The establishment of these nursing homes also helped put less strain on the state's hospital system, which rarely ever ran the risk of reaching full capacity. Even when presented with these data points, many of the left seem incapable of handling DeSantis any credit. During an interview on MSNBC, a COVID-19 advisor for President Biden deflected when asked why California's infection numbers aren't that different than Florida's, despite the two states' radically different policies. There is so much of this virus that we think we understand and we think we can predict. That's just a little beyond our explanation. Andy Slavitt said, "What we do know is more careful people are, the more they mask and social distance, and the quicker we are revaccinated, the quicker it goes away, and the less it spreads." Well, I can tell you this, folks. Everyone had their trial and errors. And I have to admit that too. Some of the things DeSantis did may be controversial from the beginning, but in due time he learned other science-based facts. Always beware of discrepancies. and observe responsibly. This is why I tell folks he trusted more with the people. We have that not clout. Even during this happening, I spread the information on natural nutrition, and how to counter the coronavirus. That's essential. I encourage people in my community to be more active. Try to keep be vigilant on your health, including take all the toxins out of your system. Even if you exercise, walk out in the hot sun, you can get all that crap out of your system, all the poisons. That's important. I disagree with the county, like Broward County is shutting down the beaches. Hey, I believe salt water is a lot more complex. But the whole thing is, everyone gets it differently. We know this COVID-19 is going to stick around for a good period of time. But we got to remain vigilant. Yeah, I'll wear my mask if I'm around elderly people. I respect that. If the businesses decide to have you want to wear a mask, that's fine. I'm not going to get offended by it. But when you have the state or the local governments try to tell you any differently, try to tell you how to run your business, it's disturbing. Broward County made some big errors on shutting down businesses. Then they tried to do this whole compensation program, which is under Article 10, Section 6 of the Florida Constitution. They made some violations. Even the mayor from Fort Lauderdale, Dean Trantillis, admit that. Because during that time, they wanted to do a curfew, and the city said no. So I'll give Governor DeSantis props in this. I'm not going to say I agree with him in everything. I admit that. If I'm critical, I'll back it up on facts. But when they try to exploit people, witch hunt, it always bites them in the butt. Look what happened with President Trump. Like him or not. They all went after one man. Now it's backfiring. Now they want to sue him, right? Please. They need to sue themselves because they suck at their job. That's just giving you an example. The whole thing is, folks, there's plenty of information on how to counter this stuff. I encourage you to go to the Alliance for Natural Health.org or dash USA, which is anh-usa.org and /COVID gives you information on how to counter an infection such as COVID. Because remember, every virus or infection has an Achilles heel. Whether it's man-made or not, doesn't matter. It's just Mother Nature's a lot more complex than you and I. Always believe in that. So have that knowledge, folks. We can all beat it. We can beat it a lot quicker than other places. Yes, so expect it. Sometimes these testing aren't accurate, and even the shots. I know. I was chatting with the older gentleman today, and he's getting headaches over it. So I'm not really too keen on these COVID shots. So always have knowledge, folks. Remember, knowledge is freedom. Ignorance is enslavement. So, don't worry. If I'm being critical towards Governor DeSantis, you know me, I'm going to back it up with facts. But, you know what? I can't crucify him on that one. But one thing you really need to do, stop playing elected prince. Talk to the opposition of the committee and your representatives too. And to your constituents. Because the whole thing is, you're serving them. And I know the human element. The folks, if you write a letter of criticism, just use decorum. Don't get all like triggered. Because it's not going to get you anywhere. Trust me. There's people out there, they hate me more because I use finesse. And I can back it up. All right, well, enough of that. All right, this was interesting here. from the Texas National Movement, .me, of course. And they came out yesterday. And here's what they had to say. Disgusting reason that millions of Texans spent the night without power. It came out yesterday. Texas has its own electrical grid and plenty of excess power generation capability. Yet, right now, millions of Texans are freezing in the dark. Here's why. Texas both produces and consumes more electricity than any other state. Texas' abundant natural resources, including natural gas, coal, and wind, are rarely available to fuel our power plants. Texas is the only one of the contiguous 48 states with its own standalone electricity grid. One of these three main grids in the U.S., the Eastern Interconnection, Western Interconnection, and Texas Interconnection, the Texas Interconnection, which covers 213 of the 254 Texas counties, is managed by the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT. Portions of Texas near the state's border are covered by the Eastern and Western grids. Texas produces more electricity than it consumes and maintains a buffer referred to as the state's reserve margin. This margin ensures that we should never have to suffer from rolling blackouts like California. Then why are so millions of Texans without power right now? Why are we dealing with rolling blackouts? The answer is too familiar: our relationship with the federal government. In anticipation with this unprecedented power demand, Texas could have maxed out power generation. However, we couldn't. Like a lowly beggar, Texas had to first ask for permission from the federal government to generate enough power to keep our people warm. Why? Because cranking up power plants to full production might violate federal pollution limits. There's a clear metaphor here. Texans were powerless because of our elected officials ceded authority to a slow-moving, uncaring gaggle of federal bureaucrats. When you're contacting your elected officials, you demand to vote a Texan. Remember that there are real consequences to us staying in the union. Right now, someone is suffering because there are indecision or opposition. That someone you might be you, your family, or your neighbors. And you can download the actual order from the Federal Department of Energy. Well. Can we say 10th Amendment? Absolutely. And another thing too, folks, it does conflict with Federalist Papers 46, written by James Madison, on federal overreach. And this is why they want us to secede, or possible secession. The Department of Energy, to a lot of people, realize they piss our money. They really only use 10% to benefit the American people. That's bad. At least, okay? And that could it can differ. It can be differentiate. One of the reasons why they want to secede, and this is why, folks, states' rights are vital. Period. Not the other way around. Remember, the nation, the United States, started by the 13 colonies, not Washington, D.C. That's a fact. That's why I always examine things thoroughly. And this is why now, with the Biden administration, it's getting more obvious. They're going to see more of a 10th Amendment push by these states. Texas, Florida, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, etc. I'm just giving you a few. Don't be surprised it's going to escalate. a movement called nullification. The reason why the 18th Amendment failed? Because the states decided to say no. And communities. Nullification is a natural remedy, according to Thomas Jefferson. So you know what? I don't want to see Texas leave the Union. But I understand and respect if it does occur. But the message is clear. They're pushing for nullification. And I commend them for it. And everyone else should do the same. Alright, one more here. Nice little story from the Abbeville Institute by Karen Stokes. A Night to Remember, February 17th, 2021. The Diary of Emma LeConte is one of the best-known documents chronicling the sack and destruction of Columbia, South Carolina. On February 17, 1865, the city surrendered by the besieging army of General William T. Sherman. His soldiers pillaged the city throughout the day and evening, set fires that would destroy much of the place. Emma LeConte's family resided on the campus of South Carolina College, now University of South Carolina. And because there was a hospital there housing some federal soldiers as patients, this area was mostly spared from the flames. Emma's diary contains her vivid, passionate reports of all that was going on around her, painting an unforgettable picture of destruction, horror, and tragedy. She wrote of how soldiers exulted in the destruction of the city, reporting though at first they tried to make excuses for the fires. One of them frankly admitted that Sherman had ordered them to burn it, that they expected to burn it, and that they did burn the whole of secession. Emma came from a distinguished family. Her father, Joseph LeConte, was born in Liberty County, Georgia. After a medical education, he practiced in Macon for a few years, and after he attended Harvard and studied natural sciences and geology under the famous scientist Louis Agassiz. Okay. Sorry, folks. Eventually, Joseph LeConte became a professor of chemistry and geology at South Carolina College in Columbia. And during the war, he helped to manufacture medicines for the Confederacy and also served in the Confederate Nitrate and Mining Bureau. A few years after the war, finding life under the carpetbagger government intolerable, he applied for employment at the University of California in Berkeley. He was elected to a professorship in geology, natural history, and botany, and moved there in September 1869. In 1892, concerned about the preservation of the Sierra Nevada mountain range, LeConte became one of the founders of the Sierra Club. Emma's uncle John LeConte was a professor of physics at South Carolina College. He said, and his wife Josephine, who are frequently mentioned in Emma's diary, lived in a fine brick house on the corner of Pendleton and Sumter Streets, built by the college in 1860. It was known as the Four Professors' House. During the night and early morning hours of September 17th, several attempts were made to burn it by Sherman's soldiers. In a letter that Josephine LeConte wrote about 10 days later, she recalled, "A long night from the piazza and roof, the women fought the flames, and there were times when the panes of glass were so hot that you could not rest your hand there for any time. But we still fought, and there stood at the sea of upturned faces of Logan's corpse, with not one spark of sympathy for us. At daylight, the flames began to subside, and I threw myself upon the bed to rest, when tramp, tramp, tramp resounded through the house. Upon rising, I found that half a dozen fellows had entered the house from the kitchen, declaring the house was on fire, rushed up to the garret, pretending to put out the fire. when lo and behold, they tore up the tin roof and deliberately set my house afire. Fortunately, the presence of an able-bodied man in the house, a friend named Dr. Carter, as well as the heroic efforts of LeConte's ladies, preserved the house from destruction. Josephine's letter records other horrors of the night. They burnt the ladies' hospital. Fortunately, all the sick were removed to our hospital during the day, except the corpse of one man. During the carnival of death and destruction, a number of their own men sought a bed there, at their beastly intoxication could carry them no farther, with these burnt up. As the flames progressed, they could be seen tearing their hair and screaming for help, but help there was none. And when the building fell, they all perished. Instantly, the yells of delight filled the air. Frantically, they advanced, severed the heads from the bodies, caught them up on their bayonets, and danced around to the tune of damnation to the rebels, little dreaming that they were their own men. Emma's diary covers a period from December 1864 to August 1865, and though brief, less than 120 pages, it is powerful and moving and is highly recommended for anyone interested in one of the darkest hours in the history of the war in the state of South Carolina. There's a source here. The mostly unpublished papers of Joseph John and Josephine LeConte are housed at the Bancroft Library at UC Berkeley. Emma's Diaries is in the Southern Historical Collection at UNC Chapel Hill. It was first published in 1957 as When the World Ended. And a new edition by Dr. James E. Kibler is in the works. Wow. So all you folks out there believe this is justifiable, and you want to take down Confederate flags, statues, and all that, you better start doing your homework and learn the other side on why all this occurred. What was the reason why they wanted to secede? South Carolina has spearheaded it. The burning of Atlanta, too. They say almost 8% of the city went to ashes. And Sherman didn't give a damn who was in there, whether black or white. He didn't care. He could care less. Stuff I read about him, he was a war criminal. But remember, folks, the victors write the history books. You better learn all sides of the story. How many people actually served in the Confederate States of America? It wasn't only the white boys. Many of them were Jewish, African blacks, and Hispanics. And just to let you folks know, too, about the battle flag, Virginia battle flag, it represented St. Andrew's Cross. The bar with the X and the 13 stars, that represents the 13 states, and the red in between the X represents Christianity. St. Andrew's Cross, Christianity. Got that from Scotland. It's always good, like I said. Start doing your homework. The cancel culture don't want you that. The Marxist scumbags want to censor it. Bulldoze their ideology out of your lives. Of course, they're going to contaminate your space, and they don't give a damn on what you think. I like constructive criticism. Yeah, some people may disagree with me. That's fine. I'm not going to get offended by it. But they'll be a bunch of spazoids if you disagree with their viewpoints. That's how I always look at the world. You're talking to a person that's born in Brooklyn, New York, okay? And I learned a lot about the Confederate States of America. And have good discussions with people. And we share information. That's how you do it. If you don't remember the past, you're going to repeat it. Now what we're seeing right now is talking about Civil War. Oh, if you study the 1850s and 60s, then you understand what you do now without using the first shot. Without it. Without firing a single shot. All right, folks. That will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the core. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of these articles on my Spreaker page. Hit that like button, too, wherever you're at. I will really appreciate that. And if you want to contact me, you can hit me at LokiLuck number 03 at protonmail.com. If you want to do a donation, you can hit me at paypal.me or cash.app /LokiLuck number 3. And if you want to support Texas movement, national movement, Abbeville Institute, or Washington Examiner, I'd be greatly appreciated. I would endorse it. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.